Hi, I am here to tell you one of my favorite strategies that I learned from teaching public school, and this would be helpful if you're homeschooling or even if you just have kids. But before we do that, I have a question for you. We are getting a puppy in 2 days, and we're gonna get a chocolate lab, and I'm just curious if you have any good suggestions or recommendations for what you get for a puppy, because it's been a long time since we've had a puppy. As you can see, our dogs seem to live good lives. No responsibilities over here. And anyways, it's been a while since we've gotten a puppy. So it's funny, I was thinking about how when people have kids, when you have your first kid, I mean, I only have one, so I can only relate up to this point, of you get a lot of things because you don't know what you don't need, you don't know what you do need, so you get everything that you can possibly think of to be prepared. And then I feel like when you have more than one kid, you start to just get less and less things, and you're like, we'll figure it out, it's good. And I feel like that with, obviously dogs and kids are way different, but I just feel like, I kind of feel that way with this dog. It will be our third dog, and we have a leash and a collar and food, and I'm like, we should probably get other things, but I don't know what else to get. I don't feel that worried about it. I'm like, we'll figure it out. So it's funny. But if you have recommendations, let us know. We're hoping we can train this dog to be a good hunting dog and can go duck hunting with my husband, and also obviously be a good house dog, a good family dog. So that's my ask for you. And in return, I'm gonna tell you one of my favorite strategies from teaching that I really thought would be helpful. It's really simple, but I think something that we can easily forget, and that's just questioning, or giving kids time to kind of be stuck and try to figure things out on their own before we step in. And if you do step in, just try and use a strategy of questioning instead of telling them what to do. And I was thinking about how in my own life, I was trying to think of some examples. I was thinking about how, in my own life, I can think of so many examples where I learned after I made the mistake and then figured it out, not by just someone being like, this is how it's done. And one example is when I was learning how to drive, my dad taught me how to drive a stick shift, and I probably don't remember how to do it now, but I remember when we were learning, there was this one point when I was driving, and I had just kind of started learning, and we'd come to a stop sign, and I couldn't get the car to go. And I was like, what is going on? And my dad didn't, you got all kinds of stuff around you. Does your child do this with their blanket? Rub it along their nose? Yeah, you do that, huh? And anyways, I couldn't figure out how to go. And my dad, we weren't in a dangerous spot or anything, but my dad he did not jump in and be like, oh, this is what you need to do. He just kind of let me sit there for a few minutes, and he might have asked me some questions, and then I know I eventually figured out. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to put it in first, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe you can take off in second, but I think I had been in fourth or fifth gear, and it wasn't going because I hadn't shifted back down to first. So, now I've never forgotten that. Yes? I've never forgotten that, and I just think about how if he would have told me what to do, I probably would have made that mistake over and over and over again, and eventually, hopefully, would have remembered. But from that moment, it was a huge learning experience, and I was like, I'm probably never going to forget that. And to this day, I remember was how I feel like I learned best, and that's how most people learn best, is by figuring things out, being able to problem solve, and not just being lectured on, told what to do. So that is helpful with kids, especially middle schoolers that don't want to be told what to do in the first place, So my first year and second year of teaching, it was a lot of lecturing. I was in the front of the classroom, I had my notes for the day, and they just copied it down and reiterated what I did, copied what I did, and it was easy, I would say, for for me because I'm like, this is what you do, this is how you copy it, you know, like just regurgitate it basically. But looking back, I don't know if that is the best way for kids to learn. And I totally get that there's things where memorizing is great. But my 3rd and 4th years of teaching, we used a different curriculum. It was very problem-based, team-based, and the kids had to like come in, get a problem, and work together to figure out the answer, and I would kind of jump in and facilitate and help as needed and provide support. And they learned so much more, not only math-wise, but also just life skills-wise, that it was amazing, and it was my favorite way of teaching. It was really hard for both of us. It was hard for me because, I mean, you've seen your kids struggle with things, or you've seen people struggle with things and you just want to like jump in and help them, right? That's our natural reaction. So it's hard to not do that and not just give all the answers when you know them. And it's easy as a teacher to just like have all of my notes for the day and just, you know, be like, okay, this is the plan for the lesson today. These are all my notes and we're gonna write them down together or whatever. And when you're doing something completely different where this is the problem that we're gonna work on together, you have no idea what's gonna come up throughout that day. You might not know the answers to some of the questions, and it's definitely a lot different and more challenging for me and also the kids, because the kids are not used to having something there where they're gonna be challenged and not just be told the answers right away. They're gonna have to struggle a little bit. You know, it's pretty common to just be like, for the kids to be lectured at all day. So talking to other kids, learning things together, learning how to be kind, and also how to tell someone when they might be doing something wrong or if they disagree with their opinion, just so many skills they're learning. And so all of that is hard. It's different. So that makes it hard, right? And with that being said, I just saw the learning that happened in those settings was like exponential growth compared to the other types of settings. So I thought that I would just share that today and let you know that those are really helpful. And I'm going to give some examples that I did in the classroom. And if I can think of something else, you can probably relate it to other aspects of your life. So in the classroom, if you're homeschooling, this might be helpful, but I was thinking of, let's say you have a subtraction problem, and let's say it's like 305 minus 72 or 172. And let's say the kids get like a 382 or something, and they do the work for it, and instead of coming around and being like, oh, this is actually, you made this mistake here and this is how you fix it, which you totally could, but if you see their answer and if you notice it's bigger than what they started with, you could say, hey, for some reason would it make sense for if you're subtracting or taking away to get a bigger number? And then they might be like, oh no, it wouldn't. And then they might try again, and they might get a little bit closer this time, and then you can ask them another question or something else you notice. So obviously it might get to a point where you're like, okay, let's like practice this again and let me show you how to do it. But those are just great strategies to not give them the answer and give them the motivation to want to be like, oh yeah, that's helpful, let me try this again. And it sets them up to be able to figure it out on their own, and then they'll remember it better because they went through that experience. So that's one example. And I did this a lot when I was teaching. I did a lot of I would just walk around and see what they were doing, and instead of me jumping in and giving them the answers, they would tell me where they were stuck at. I would look at what they had, and I would ask them some question about their work or try to figure out where they were stuck at. And some people have such a gift for asking questions, and I've seen teachers have this gift for just the questions they ask, totally, you get it right away. You're like, oh yeah, this is it. I don't think I have that gift, and I don't think you need to have that gift, even though it's a super cool gift. But sometimes it's just like having someone to bounce ideas off and talk with. I notice this with my own life. Sometimes I'm like, have a conflict and I just want to like talk with someone about it, and then I'm like, oh yep, I got it now, thank you. And that's sometimes what all the kids would need, is just someone to bounce ideas off, talk back and forth with, and then they would get it. So it was really cool to see. And this can be used in so many things too. I mean, with not even like, sorry, my child was making me nervous. So not even with like math problems, maybe sometimes the kids would come in, I'm not even kidding you. I had this time, I can remember this time because it cracked me up, where we were taking a test and someone wasn't writing down, like they weren't doing the test. And I went up to them and I was like, hey, we're taking a test right now. Why aren't you like doing your test? And they were like, well, I don't have a pencil. Instead of me being like, we'll go get a pencil, I was like, so what should we maybe do about that? Would it make sense to just not take the test then? And I mean, they could be sarcastic. Maybe, which is the best part about middle schoolers. But usually they realize how silly your question is and they're like, oh yeah, I should probably go find a pencil. And they probably won't do that again. Who knows? But it's just literally, you could, what's wrong? So it doesn't have to be crazy, but just stopping yourself, and instead of saying something, and instead asking them whatever you were going to tell them, maybe ask them a question instead, and you might be surprised at what happens from that. So that is my share for today. I hope that's helpful in life. You can use that with significant others. Maybe not with dogs, but it is just a great, it's a great strategy, life strategy, I think. Tell me if you have an experience with asking a question over something, over like your initial gut reaction is to say something and instead you ask a question. Have you had any of those experiences you can think of that were really helpful, whether it was like with a kid or a significant other? I'm curious, because sometimes there can be funny situations, like with the not having a pencil so they can't take the test. All right, thanks for listening. Let me know what other things you want me to talk about, and what came up for you while you were watching this video. I want to know, and I want to comment and reply, and I am excited. I'll see you in the next video, or if you're on my email list, I'm sure I have a funny video or a funny story coming out this Sunday, and I'm excited to share it with you and chat with you either through email or see you in the comments. All right, bye.